I'm praying to God. I'm here. Okay, I'm back. I hope you guys can find me. Okay, I'm live and I'm sorry, I've had a lot of technical difficulties today, and I will fix up this afterwards with a new thumbnail and hope that everybody can come back and find me. So, and I'll do a private video with StreamYard, and hopefully we can work that out. So tonight we're going to talk about the suit of Pentacles and earthiness, and yay! So Jen, hopefully you can see me and you can hear me and all is well. Yay! I'm there. Okay, good, excellent. So hi. So welcome. I did a broadcast earlier today talking about Ostara. Thank you very much for confirming everything is good. And it was really, it turned out great. I was so happy to talk about this shift in the seasons and all that's going on with me and the connections. So where I am living, so what time is it now? So it's 6:12. So in about 2.5 hours is the actual time of the equinox. And to have this kind of level of awareness, I've really been amping up my connection to cycles, tides, moons, astrology, and everything. And I have found that this level of connection just makes me feel so much more dialed in. And so I hope that you can feel that energy of what it actually means, the balance of the night and the day, and the invitation for us to bring that balance into our days. And just right around this time to kind of grasp, if we can be in sync with the universe, if we can capture a few moments of what that equanimity, equilibrium means during this moment, these next 10 hours, these next 24 hours, I think if you want to create any kind of intentions or you want to manifest something, that this is just a perfect time to, to kind of to tap in all that energy as above, so below. I'm really excited to be feeling that. And if you haven't seen the broadcast from earlier today, go back and have a look in your leisure time. But tonight is not about Ostara. Tonight is about Pentacles, all things Pentacles. And this is actually one of my favorite suits. I feel pretty much in any deck that this suit is not, yay. Thanks, Kyle. I'm glad you found your way here. Yes. So in the Southern Hemisphere, you are moving into the harvest season, right? So you're in a different cycle, but I think that is still an equinox, right? It is still an equinox. And so you still have that opportunity to capture that same kind of bringing balance in energy. It's going in a different direction, but it's still there. So yeah, so tonight we're going to look at a few different decks. I'm going to talk about a little bit about the wheel of the year. I'm going to talk a little bit about just all of the associations with Pentacles. And I wrote down a few questions in my notebook. And of course, I'll have various announcements that I want to connect with. And I'm just going back into through here. We talked about several weeks ago in the Suit of Wands. I mentioned 3 really important principles when we are looking at when we're looking at cards. And that when we start tonight to look at some of the associations with the suit of Earth, so whether that is financial or the physical body or connections to family, your sensitivity and your awareness to any kind of earth movement, right? Whatever that association is, there's all kinds of things with the earth, right? And we want to look at the crossover with the other suits, because what happens when we look at suits in, I needed more bookmarks here. When we look at suits in isolation, and when we behave and we act in all focused in one suit, so we're too excessive in one suit, that's when things go out of whack. So as we chat tonight, and as you chat amongst yourselves, I think it would be important to try to figure out what are the air, the similarities of air and earth, and fire and earth, and water and earth, and how do they enhance each other, and how do these qualities take away. So I was thinking about some of them, and water and earth are tricky. So when we have a reading where we mix water and earth, and we get mud, right? And weather-wise, it's not a good thing. We don't want excessive water with earth. We need a little bit of water so the soil doesn't become parched. And so that's what I'm talking about, balance. But also there's this other piece. So when we're looking at wands, we have the whole concept of intuition, and we can tap into intuition as well with cups, wands, and air. But in earth, the suit of earth, it feels more on its own. You know what I mean? Like there's in the actual the body of the earth, in the earth itself, in the pentacle, in the coins, I don't feel the sense of, like, the creation is not in the earth itself. The creation is in the seed. And maybe the seed is the earth, right? Because the seed is a manifest thing. So what I'm yammering about here is I want to find the cross connections. And I did not write an essay about this to prepare for this. This is just something I'm thinking about aloud here. So we can bring in the energy of the other suits into the earth. So we don't just see the suit of the earth in isolation. We need to see the light, the air, the wisdom, the magic in the earth. And so the earth itself, and one of the ways I'm going to tap into this, just thought of this, is through crystals. So I shared with you a little bit in the past about my work with crystals and how I have expanded that more recently. And when I'm working with them, there seems to be, this is a beautiful piece my daughter just brought back from, I don't know whether it came from Peru or Guatemala. It's got these beautiful, it came from Guatemala. It came from, the sacred place where she was working with the elders there, learning about cacao. I'm going to come back to this. Well, I mentioned that tomorrow I'm doing a mother-daughter Ostara welcoming in the spring ceremony with my daughter, and it's going to be on Zoom. I posted a link in my community page as well as on the broadcast from this morning. And later on tonight, I'll put a link on this video as well too. She is just a beautiful soul. And so she's going to do a water blessing, and I'm going to do a group reading for the spring. So when I'm working with crystals, I feel there's this wisdom in the crystal. There is a history, not a history. Feels so wrong. Not the right word. There's an ancient wisdom in the crystal. This has been in the earth. This has been created by the earth herself, right? By compression, by heat. So there were other elements involved in creating this, right? The heat. So there's something about the energy of this. And if you want to think about the earth rather than thinking about the dirt, which I tend to think about something like this. And all of, like, the crystals here and contain everything that has happened. And so that's what I want to feel, and that's what I want to create in every suit, is that connection, the magic, the intuition, the sense of and we didn't talk about the sense of the earth in the other suits. So I'm just throwing this out there, kind of rambling away. I'm hoping it makes some kind of sense, because like I said, if we just really focus on one aspect of a suit, then things go all kind of crazy. And I think our readings as readers, reading for ourselves or reading for others, we need to be able to kind of see, like if you have a little eye, right, you need to be able to see each card from multiple directions. I was talking about lots of things when I did my PIP video, right? So you need to look at the sacred geometry and the color and the individual art that's been created by that particular deck creator. There's an energy to all of that, and so we need to embrace that. Okay, so that whole thing I just said was basically I'm going to try to not completely separate Pentacles into just this kind of lump of mud, this lump of solid earth, just the coins, because that feels so superficial. It's so much more than that. There is magic there, right? There is intuition there, and we need to find that. We need to capture that energy. And so where do you want to begin? I have a few different decks that I want to talk about tonight, and maybe I will start with the magic of Shadowscapes, because I think that Stephanie Puimun Law is just this amazing artist. And there's something really beautiful about this suit. And I don't know what you see in this suit. The other question that we've talked about this before was which, I'm going to throw this out there, maybe you can comment on it and I will circle around to it later. Which major arcana cards do you associate with the element of earth? Okay, so I want to kind of throw that out there. So in this deck, I'm just going to fan it and then turn it to you. Oh, it's so beautiful. Okay. I don't know why. Maybe I'm tired. I can't hold on. Right. So we have these beautiful greens and a little bit of purple. And there's these magical stained glass windows. Sorry, I shouldn't hold it like that. In a lot of these cards. And to me, they look like stained glass windows. And I just wondered about that, because that's a very material, like we have the broken glass in this one. And anyway, we'll come back to that. So I wanted to just kind of touch on this particular deck first and the magic in this deck and the beauty of the potential energy that comes. So we have the chameleon here sitting on the pentacle, and we see kind of a masculine face inside the pentacle. And there's a bunch of baby chameleons around. And if you notice, the chameleon also has kind of a magic wand. I actually didn't really notice that before, which is kind of cool. And so, like all aces, we have the whole suit, the whole potential contained within that, the energy of that card. And so for me, the aces, all of the aces are a yes. You have a question on your mind, and whether you asked a yes or no question, and we practice not asking yes and no questions when we're doing readings, but the general mood, the general answer for aces for me is definitely a yes. And it's an action, it's an invitation to step forward, and it's an invitation to grow and to move. This is the French version of the Victorian Fairy Tarot, which I used for the reading today. And this deck, you can get it on the Fool's Dog app, and also on the Russian deck is still available on eBay. And I've done a video comparing the French and the Russian version, and the Russian version is actually quite beautiful. It's more saturated. So if you're still looking for the Victorian Fairy Tarot. And so in this, the apples are the theme for this particular suit. And in the center, of course, the apple, if you cut it a certain way, you can see the pentacle, and pentacles being that connotation with abundance and harvest and finances. In this particular deck is associated with the harvest, right? With the autumn and with the time of year where Jen is, right? So that shift in the autumnal equinox. And so the potential, right, in the center is the seed. It's like all of the metaphors with the acorn. So the potential for the growth, the potential for the whole seed, the potential for the apple is by cutting the apple in half and allowing the seed to plant in the ground. And I don't think this is a challenging card for anybody. This is the Ace of Stones from the Wild Wood. Super, super grounded energy. And I think before I race off when we go through all of the cards, there's a few other important points I kind of want to touch on. One is the sense of earth and connected to the root chakra and how I tie that in as a reader. And, with the seasons. So in my research for the event tomorrow and a few other things I've been doing, I'm starting to realize that there are so many different traditions. And when I work with the Wildwood Tarot, it's a very personal thing. I don't tend to use it for readings. I still feel like a student of that deck. And with the Wheel of the Year, the Season of Pentacles is in the winter season. So the season of earth, the season of stones is the winter, as opposed to the deck I just showed you, right? This one here, which is in the fall. And I know for some people, the season of earth feels like the awareness and the smells of the earth, right? When you come into the spring. So I have been a little discombobulated, and through that discombobulation have come kind of full circle to, okay, we mustn't be attached to any of this and just embrace the season, embrace the element, embrace the energy that is with us at that time. And that is perfect. That is exactly as it is supposed to be. Oh, good. You guys are commenting. So yeah, so good. We have a few majors that are coming in associated with Earth. Okay, so I've got some similar ones there. Hi, Whale Song. Okay, so let's go back. So root chakra. There is this sense of, I've talked about this before, and I just want to make sure, because this is a really good thing to look at some point. That movie, it's an animated movie called The Croods, Croods. And in the beginning of the movie, they're inside the cave. And there's a young teenage daughter, a young person who wants to leave the cave. There's somebody who wants to emerge from the cave. So this movie is a really beautiful parable, metaphor of the journey through the chakras. And so it begins in the cave. It begins in the home, in the protection of the cave, in the, in the darkness, in the root. And the father does not want the children to go up. There's a lot of fear around emerging from the cave. I'm just throwing that out there in case you need something to kind of grasp onto in a, I mean, the caveman story is not real world, but it's a really good way to look at the chakras. And if you watch that movie and you go through it, you'll see, oh, okay, now they're in the element of water, now they're in the element of fire, and so forth. It's really quite clever. And I don't know if that was done at a conscious level or not, but it's quite amazing. So the root chakra, the suit of pentacles being connected to that, is about that sense of I belong. I belong. I'm safe, and I have the right to be here. And sometimes the Suit of Pentacles is very challenging for people who feel like they don't belong. They feel like they were placed in the wrong family. They feel like they don't belong on this planet. They never have. Or they feel a real disconnect with nature or with the outdoors. They absolutely fear going for a walk in the forest. They prefer to be inside than outside. And so there's this, I did another thing about grounding, it's all the same thing. So there's that real disconnect and fear of nature. So those things are all kind of really important in understanding the root chakra. And you see that in that movie, right? There's this fear of going out. There's this fear of stepping away. And so when this chakra comes into right relationship, then there is this ease in the coming and the going from the family. And you see in the Four of Pentacles that sense of clinging. And you can feel that sense of clinging in that it's very difficult to move in and to move in and out of the family protection, right? Of the home, or whatever you want to call it. So I really like to look at lots of different layers and levels when I'm going through a reading, and when the pentacles arise and the question has not been about career, and or if it has been about career and a lot of court cards pop up in the video, then I know that we're going to be really diving deep into family relationships. And probably there's going to be some cup cards show up there as well too. So many different layers, but please go ahead and ask me questions about that, because I'm happy to talk about any of that more. So let's go back, because I think it's a good place to start with the majors, and I'm going to just see what we've got here. So we've got Tower, Empress, Emperor, Hanged Man, Death, Empress, Hierophant, Death, Tower. All right. And Strength too, because of grounding. I can see Earth in every card in the tarot, depending on the question reading, in differing amounts and weight, if that makes sense. Yes, that makes perfect sense, because we should be able to see every element in every card. It's just that it's stronger in certain cards than others. So let's take the Empress, for example, because I think it's a really beautiful example. And because I remember somebody asked me recently, I wrote a long reply on a comment on a video about why was the Empress water and the Emperor fire? What was that about? And so I was talking about the hexagram and all of that. So the Empress, of course she's also Earth. This is from the Shadowscapes Tarot. She is Mother Earth. She is all that provides in this material world. In the teachings from the yogis, so you get Purusha, which is the word for the super consciousness, sorry, that's not the right word, universal consciousness, and then Prakriti, Prakiti, Prakriti, for all that is here. So you can also use the terms Shiva and Shakti. So Shakti represents the books on my table, the cards on my table, the plants, the screen behind me. So Shakti is all that is manifest. And you can't have, oh, this is a really good segue into something. You can't have the Shakti without the Shiva. There can't be one without the other. This is really cool. They can't exist without the other. They need each other to actually be here. And so the Empress, I think, of all of the major cards, is probably one of the easiest ones to see. And one of you mentioned the Tower. And if you have something really specific you want me to speak to, can you please put at Integrative Healing with Sadhana, please, and I'll make sure to see it, because I'll put my glasses on. So yes, I totally agree that the Earth can be found in every single major card if we look to an aspect of it The Tower card is really interesting. So the Tower card is the destruction of a manifested thing, right? And so somehow the power, the force of nature destroys something that has been created. And that which has been created could also, like, the tower can also represent a metaphorical tower as well too, right? An ivory tower. But it is definitely easy to see the element of earth in the Tower card. That's a very strong one there. Surprisingly, in the Wildwood Tarot, if you're not familiar with it, I'm just going to share this with you because I was looking at it at length today. So I said we're in the suit of winter. So the 6 major cards that are associated with earth in that deck are the Devil, which is called the Guardian. And that makes perfect sense to me because of that. Again, like I was saying about that 4 of Pentacles and the Devil, there's that sense of grasping and that sense of real clinging to all the things that are material, including various habits and things. 13, so death, which is called the Journey. The Hermit, which I found is really interesting because I associate the Hermit and the Hanged Man and Judgment more to other elements. But definitely the Hermit, when I think about the actual connection to the earth, he would not be able to transform. He would not be able to have his realizations if he was not connected to the earth. There's a funny parable in Rachel Pollack's book, the 78 Degrees of Wisdom book, about a bunch of rabbis at the beginning of the Suit of Pentacles, and about how the one, if you are just attached to air or fire or water, then that is your destruction. You have to be connected to all of the elements in order to survive that enlightenment. Anyway, so the hooded man, he's called the hooded man in the Wildwood Tarot. The Hermit definitely needs that connection in order to have that transformation. But I wasn't really thinking about that too much previously. In the Judgment card in this deck, it's called the Great Bear. And I think this really kind of blows me away. Oh, I hope I put it here. Please, please, please tell me I put it here. Page, Knight, Queen, King. Yes, this is the Judgment card in the Wildwood Tarot. So the Great Bear is emerging from hibernation. And that isn't that kind of cool? That's kind of interesting that I was just talking about the Hermit going into the cave, and the Great Bear goes into the cave. And so there needs to be that respect and that honoring of the Mother Earth in order to have the enlightenment. I like that a lot. And intuitively, look at this one. Here's your 4 of Pentacles in this deck. Intuitively or instinctually, this little fawn is inside a kind of metaphorical cave as well too, for protection and comfort and security. And so there's something about going into the cave. Anyway, I love it when those kind of connections arise. All right, I want to get back to where I was with that one. Sorry, I feel a little scattered today. Maybe because I've been doing a lot of this today. So I was talking about which major arcana cards are connected to the suit of Pentacles in the Wildwood Tarot. So they are the Devil, Death, 9, so the Hermit, Judgment, the Star card, I suppose, as above, so below, and the Ancestor card as well, too. I just find that deck is really fascinating because it forces you to make these connections and to go into deep, deep dive kind of study and thought of the tarot. I had a question. Oh, there's my name. I had a question a couple weeks ago. Somebody said, I can't connect to the numinous. And so we're going to look at the numinous next. And I will come back to Shadowscapes because I feel quite a profound connection to the suit of Pentacles in that deck. I'm just staring at it right now. But I'm going to go to numinous after I read this question. Yes, Lori, that parable. So go back and read the beginning of the Pentacles chapter. And it's a great parable. So in the numinous, the suit of Earth is called tomes. And I believe, I don't know whether it was on a live or if it was in a comment, the person said that they had to put their numinous away because they couldn't find the connection of the books to the Pentacles. And I'm just wondering if I'm just reading Angie's comment. So I just want to say, Angie, it is a little different, but it's so worthwhile. It's so worthwhile taking time to make it a self-study project. So in the numinous, we have all of these books in every single card. This is the 10 of tomes. And the creator says in the introduction to the suit of tomes, we first make our dreams physical by writing down our intent. We first make our dreams physical by writing down our intent. You'll find in a lot of guidebooks, there is this beautiful thread between each of the elements. So Pentacles being last. So we have the creative spark, right, in the suit of fire. And then there's some kind of emotion that is attached to it. And the thought gets refined in the suit of air. And then finally, we take pen to paper and we actually make something of our thought. So whether we write a book or we design plans for our house, actually putting pen to paper is a beautiful metaphor for the term I was talking about, prakriti, so making it manifest. So instead of thinking of Pentacles just as coins, thinking of Pentacles, thinking of this suit as all that is manifest. And almost, when I think of it that way, I feel more in awe of the suit. Like, how cool is that everything came from a thought. Everything in every card came from a thought, came from an idea, and it came from a creative spark. And somebody had the courage and the insight, and they had enough passion to carry it through and actually put it down on paper. Or put it, or make something, right, to make it manifest. So I think that might help making a lot easier to see the books as not necessarily Pentacles, but see the books as a manifest thing. And there are physical objects for all of the suits, but metaphorically, the book represents the idea put down onto paper. The written word is the abstract made real. Another way to kind of say that. So let's just look at this suit, and then I want to got a few random things I want to talk about here. So I just want to go through the numinous. And that labyrinth that is there, I think is quite clever. This is the 2. And have you thought much about, those of you that have that, the 2 heads in that particular card? And with this 3, you'll notice that there are, so there's a book on herbology, a book on anatomy, and that's really interesting. So it's, I guess it's on plants or gardening maybe. So the idea with the 3 for me, the 3 of Pentacles, is that by bringing in the information, the ideas from all 3 of those particular books, you're going to create something better and something more, it's going to be a more quality product, a higher quality idea, a more evolved idea, the more that comes together to put, the more that is put into it. What do I want to say? I have no words here. By bringing all of those ideas together, you're going to create something better than if you were just using a single resource. Here's your 4. So all of those books are locked behind glass. We have a bit of a collector here, and I'm sure all of you can relate to this, right? Your tarot cards. That's why I feel it is so important to play with your cards. And if you're going to buy really expensive indie decks, collector decks, and not use them, I don't know. I don't really get that. I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about the 5. I have a couple of 5s I would like to explore, but in this deck, she's actually burning the books. She's burning the books. So something shifted, and what was once a prized possession, what was once collected, now has to be burned for survival. And it's kind of a big lesson. And then the lesson is learned here. The lesson is learned about the sharing, right? And not locking things away. Noel Arthur Hempel, that's the creator of this deck. I think they did a really good job in kind of going through the expansion of, like, carrying the whole idea through in this suit. So when we get to the 8 and we're talking about really making it your own, I find that, so in the 3, we bring a lot of things together, but in the 8, it becomes very, like here, she's actually binding the book by hand, making it her own, refining a craft. Don't you find often when this card comes up, it's about really, it's doing what you really want to do. If you're doing a career reading, and then we have the contentedness and the abundance and the, I think contentedness is such a beautiful word for the 9. And then I showed you the 10 already. So that whole suit of books is just tomes is, I don't know, I think it's a good metaphor. It's a good metaphor for that which is manifest. In contrast to, and I pulled this deck out just, I don't know, just for fun. Do you guys have this one? I haven't used this in a live before. Okay, Kyle says a basic necessity. The tomes is a basic necessity. Right, so many different layers to look at. So this is the wooden tarot, and we have the suit of bones for the suit of earth. And I'll just show you the 1 and the 10 and a couple of other cards. So sometimes, and we talked about this, I think at the end of last week's live, like, what do you see the Pentacles as or we might have chatted about it somewhere else. So the mandible is in the 2, and then in the 10, we have the fully formed jaw, right? The completion of the suit. And we have all of the bones for the skull in the 10. So the suit of Pentacles really is about that. What do I want to say? The solidity, like that connection, that needing to connect to the earth, right? We need to feel our bones. We need to feel that groundedness in order to feel successful, in order for all those ideas, all those creative thoughts, the imagination, in order for the emotions that fuel the idea to go somewhere, we need to bring that down to earth. And I think in this deck, what has been created is, in this particular suit, is that sense of solidity and growing and watching the bones connect and watching how the bones build on one another. And that whole idea of them building and building, you see, in the 8, right? Because you get the vertebra in the 8 of Pentacles. So, yeah. Okay. I'll come back to some other cards in a moment, but I wanted to just throw this one out because I know there's a lot of books out there and a lot of you have different practices. And I think this is part of the suit of Pentacles, is the magic of the ordinary, or the seeing the sacred in the mundane. And at the beginning, I was trying to find words to put together seeing the fire and the water and the air in the Pentacles, and how important it is to connect the energy of each of the elements. And so if we think about that, and we think about different practices, different things we do in the day, and finding the sacred in the mundane. Okay, so for some people, this is just a rock, but not for me. It's a deeply sacred object. And when I think about certain collectors and certain objects that people cling to, and we often talk about material possessions being a negative thing. And especially, I think a generation older than me, my mother and her friends, people who went through the Great Depression, people who've experienced severe poverty, have a completely different way of thinking about material objects. And I think that is an important consideration. It's not just for survival at the fear level, but there's also this integral, I don't know, there's this thread. It's almost like a thread that goes through the object. It was my mother's. It was my mother's mother's. There's a real sense of history with a particular object, a piece of china or a porcelain figurine, or maybe a book or something. And I think a lot of people are very, very quick. Like, use the example of cleaning out a parent's home after they die. There's this tendency to just, oh my God, there's so much stuff. We just need to get rid of everything. But there's actually a thread of DNA. There's a thread of history in some of these objects. And to take time to see the magic, the secret in the mundane objects, it's something that's definitely worth considering, and to not quickly dismiss I think that's what happens when we look at the suit of Pentacles and we just think of it as coins and finances. It's so much more than that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I want to go back to this suit of this deck of Shadowscapes and comment on just a few particular cards. Are there any cards in the suit of Pentacles that you want to talk about in particular? Here's the Three of Pentacles. And this is so beautiful. This reminds me a little bit of the Three of Pentacles in Robin Wood. So in Robin Wood, you have only one person in the card. And the artist is creating, there's feathers, and there is definitely some kind of marble or something, and an object is being created, but there's only one person. And in that card, it's almost like the elements come together to make this creation. Like, you could not only make this beautiful sculpture just out of marble, you need to build in the energy of feathers by chiseling in the feathers as well too. And in this card, this is almost like a dance to me. It's just so beautiful the way that they are entwined, both physically and energetically. And so that three, which you see in a lot of the threes, is about just that building and that really coming together, and the beauty in the coming together. So there's no more separation. There's the separation in the two. And we talked about this in other suits, the separation of the two and the coming together in the three. Well, what comes together in the Three and the Pentacles is something you can actually touch and feel. And there's something really absolutely gorgeous being created. There is, I don't know, I was looking at a lot of decks today to try to see. And so if you get a Three of Pentacles, when there's only one person in that particular card, look to what they're creating. I'm sure that in the card, there's more than Three Pentacles in one person. You're going to see other energies in the card as well too. So look a little bit deeper if that's something that trips you up. Okay. And, you know, any card that has a dragon in the Four of Pentacles, I love. So you get that real sense of clinging to the material possessions. And it's taken generations and generations, because dragons outlive humans, right? They live for multiple generations, to collect that hoard. That hoard has not been collected in one go. I have the Thelema Tarot here. So there's a couple of different decks that do an image something like this one. And there's something about this Four of Pentacles and more of an RWS Four of Pentacles, where you really have that sense of separation. Not so much in the Shadowscapes Tarot that I'm looking at here. So it's like, by clinging too tight, all of the energy is focused inward, and we don't see what's going on the outside. So that Four of Pentacles is really, for me, a card of separation. It's really big separation. And here I see this little girl, and to have a little girl on this card is really odd for me. Like, why would a little girl be behaving in this way? And so she has needed to take her treasure box and go far, far away from home. She probably had to sneak away. And so she's physically separated herself from her home and her family, because for some reason she needs to cling to this. Her security, her safety is being transferred into the physical objects. Sounds a bit like the Devil card, doesn't it? What did I just say? Her security is being transferred into the physical objects. So that sounds a lot like the Devil. I still haven't made that video. I don't know if it's ever going to happen. But I'm going to hold that thought, because I think that's a good one. Okay. Let's talk about the Five. I like this card, the Five of Pentacles. And I think it's a really important card in any deck. And if a creator gets it right, they really get it. They get it right. And we talked a bit about Poppy Palin's deck the last couple of times, and I really don't like the Five of Pentacles in that deck. It's just too materialistic for me. That is, I think it's a casino. And so somebody's playing in the casino, and then there's other people outside the window. Do you know that card? I think there is so much to learn in the Five of Pentacles. And I'm going to go to the Wildwood because it's just a beautiful card. Here's the 5. So one of you were saying how difficult it was to work with this deck. I think you can find the RWS in many, many of these cards if you look. And you can also learn so much more about the Waite-Smith system by studying a deck like this. And so this little girl, again, we're back in the cave. Seems to be our theme for today. She does have a fire, so there is warmth in front of her, but she is alone. And there also is, if you notice the rocks, I believe this card, there's 4 separations, so there's 5 pieces of rock. And that's how the 5 of stones is represented in this card. And to me, this card is a little bit like the 7 of Wands in a way. Sometimes I feel like we need to create that illusion of separation. We need to create it in order to process something. And you know how in the 4 of Cups, there's often like kind of this gesture, like, I don't want that. I don't want to deal with that. Or there's a sense of turning something away. And then we get to the 5 of Cups, and then you actually turn away. And I feel like when we go from the 4 to the 5 of Pentacles, there's this really similar energy. Like in the 5 of Pentacles, we're in this perhaps poverty and lack of abundance, lack of abundance mentality, a scarcity mentality. But I wonder if something had been offered that we were too proud to accept, or perhaps it wasn't our path. It wasn't on our path to accept something else. And if you look at an RWS where you have the lovely church with the stained glass windows and the lights are on inside and the warmth is inside, there's spiritual teachings inside, there's beautiful music, there's a high frequency energy. I mean, depending on what church it is. The doors are never locked. You can go in, you don't have to stay outside. So when that 5 of Pentacles is there in a reading, I think it's really important to understand that sometimes people need to be in the experience of the 5 of Pentacles, right? They need to be out in the cold. They need to go on the solo trek. They need to relinquish all of their material possessions, either by choice or not by choice, so that they can learn the lesson, so that they can go through that. And you know what somebody said to me recently? They said, I'm trying to figure out exactly what they said. They said, "This is too much for a little tarot reading. Can I ask you an easier question?" And I just kind of laughed to myself, like, don't ask if you don't want to know. And I have a way of diving deep a little too quickly for a lot of people. And yeah, I get the whole tarot for entertainment thing, but that's not really my shtick. And I try to make that clear when people sit down. Of course, if I'm doing a party or something, it's totally different. But I don't know, what's your experience with that? Have you ever had that kind of experience doing readings for clients or friends? And it's like, well, you asked. And then all of a sudden you find yourself in this energy of, Wow, I kind of wish I hadn't asked. This is way too heavy. Yeah, I would love to. I'd like to know if you've ever kind of been there. Oh my goodness, it's happened again. So I have this error message, and this is what happened this morning on my live. It says, unable to connect to chat. Please try again later. And if I can't restart this. Okay. So maybe if I type something, um, no, it's not connected. Anyway, let me know if you can see what I just typed. Perhaps in all of this self-isolation, YouTube is being overloaded and it's having a very hard time with processing everything that's coming through. I know my video earlier had it took a long time for it to actually render, actually. So yeah. All right, so let's carry on. So I can't see anything, and you probably can't see my comment either, which is too bad, because that's part of the live, right? I like talking to you guys instead of just talking to myself. Let's go on to the 6. The beautiful, beautiful 6 in the Shadowscapes Tarot. This is one of the most beautiful 6s of Pentacles. And what I see here is that in the playing of the music, it's the energy of the playing of the music that is creating the richness and the abundance, and it's kind of giving back to the earth. And I imagine that chameleon who is receiving all of that energy at the bottom of the waterfall of the energetic pentacles that are being created by the musician is like he's going to grow exponentially or become super strong or become super chameleon or something. I really, really like that card. It so beautiful. You know, that 6 of Pentacles, one of the first, I had a beautiful tarot teacher who was really good. And this was long, long time ago, before we had the decks, you know, where you look from the back or the moment before, the moment after, that kind of stuff. And she always asked those kind of questions. Well, who are you? Are you the person who's giving, or are you the person who's receiving? And the giving and the receiving, I think, it's an important part of understanding the Pentacles. I talked about that earlier today when I was talking about picking flowers. And if you go out into the garden and you cut something, even from your own garden, you know, you're taking away from that plant. And so what are you offering back? And if you could make your offerings of water a sacred offering, or perhaps you're feeding it with other herbs or with an organic fertilizer. And so to acknowledge that as a giving, so that you can take, right? So that you can enjoy the beautiful flowers inside. And that giving and receiving feels really more and more important to me. I know I've done this a few times where you like actually ask the plant if they want to be a part of your display, your altar, your wreath, and so forth. And I think that's a really beautiful thing to do, is to actually ask if it comes inside. And that feels like a real genuine part of this suit. So the 7s, I think, it's a pretty simple card. In the 8, which I did address a little bit earlier, we were, I still can't see the chat. In the 8, I talked about that refinement of something. And here in this 8 of Pentacles, in Stephanie's art, we have this amazing, amazing creation with this beautiful metaphor of the spider web. and that magical energy of the spider web. And also, I think it's in Rachel Pollack's book. I get all my resources mixed up. So the rabbi goes into the cave, the monk goes into the cave for a period of time, and then there's nothing in the cave except for the spider, and the spider tries to create a web across the front of the cave, but the wind is so strong, but the spider persists and persists and persists, and finally creates this magical wave across the magical web across the front of the cave. And so there's this beautiful connection that happens between the hermit in the cave and the connection with the spider. But the lesson of the spider and the metaphor of the spider webs is just really, really deep. And I love it when decks have that. We do have a few material objects in this deck. So here we have the piano in the 9. And we have that connection to music. So this is one of the things that I love to see so we have the piano that is part of the tree, an extension of the tree. And when I see a piano, I naturally think music. And so there's that energy of sound. So the sound is connected to for some people, ether, for some people, air. And that is a really, really high frequency. So when we mix the energy of the frequency of air or ether with earth, we're elevating the frequency of the trees, of the soil. And have you ever gone out into the forest to meditate and taken a singing bowl or taken your drum, and you begin to play your instrument, play your drum, and it's almost as if the earth begins to beat with you. It's this really crazy experience. So I imagine this piano. I have a beautiful story to share with you that's just come up. I hope it's okay if I share it with you. Okay. Anyway, I really love that kind of experience where that frequency is, because we get hung up on it's just a material thing. And by feeling those connections, it just makes it feel so much more special. And then we can really feel the sacred in the mundane. All right, so here's my story. We were on a walk, a yoga walk, a meditative walk. And we were walking in silence. And this was with a bunch of, I think it was actually at a wanderlust. And we came to a certain place, and the leader of the group had hidden her harmonium in the bushes. And so we sat down in a circle next to the river, and she went and got her harmonium. And she taught us a few mantras, and then maybe it was just one mantra. We were practicing it over and over in different parts and things. When you learn a new mantra, it's kind of challenging. And then the energy of the group and the vibrations from the harmonium started to really come together. And when you're singing together with people, and at first the discord is kind of uncomfortable, but then after a little bit, it just starts to, everybody's tones just start to somehow magically come together, and you can almost feel everybody's heartbeat, and you can feel everybody's diaphragm moving at the same time, and it just feels so special. So I was sitting there with this group of people, and we were chanting a Gopala, so a Krishna mantra. And I closed my eyes. I'm sure everybody had their eyes closed. And I started to hear, I'm not shitting you, like angels singing. I heard the mantra being repeated in the ether. And And I opened my eyes and I was kind of going like this, going like, whoa, like, thinking, okay, of course, somebody else had to have joined our group because I can hear this mantra everywhere. And I think everybody else in the group had their eyes closed. And I was just awestruck. And I had all these chills running through my body. And I wanted to hold on to that experience forever, sitting on the rocks with the mantra, being connected to the earth, being connected to this super high frequency of whatever was going on around us. And it was just one of those really beautiful things. So I guess the moral of the story is get out into nature and take your drum and sing and chant and allow those connections to grow. Yeah. Yeah. Get connected. Get connected. I hope you like that story. 10 of Pentacles, 9 of Pentacles, 10 of Pentacles, 10 of Pentacles. Look at the RWS. I think the more you can, if it's a particular card that has the Tree of Life with the Pentacles on the card, that really resonates for me. I think the Tree of Life is a beautiful metaphor to work through the tarot. And I love it when people do videos and bring in all those associations. I love that richness and that layer. Unfortunately, it feels to me like the Tree of Life is just kind of slapped on the 10 and it doesn't carry through in a visible way in that suit. And so it would be really cool if a deck creator was able to have a visual representation of the Tree of Life carried through the suit of Pentacles. That's just a random thought that came to me. So the 10 of Pentacles is the culmination of the suit. It is the saturation of the suit. And one of the things I didn't share with you tonight is that I try to bring in, not look at any card as either good or bad, and that there is light and shadow in every single card. And sometimes it's easier to find the light and it's easier to find the shadow. But in going through a new deck, it's important, I think, to work that. And so as you're exercising your deck, to take the time to exercise the cards that are obviously light or obviously dark, and then to find the opposite in that, because it's important. For me, it's important because I don't read reversals and I go through, I mean, if a card, I always put my card, I shouldn't say that. I don't read reversals because I do. So my intention is to always turn my cards the right way. And when I finish with a deck, to put the cards the right way. But sometimes cards end up upside down. So if I'm doing a reading and a card actually is upside down, I do note that it is upside down because I believe it's upside down for a reason. And so then I'm going to either read that as an exclamation mark. It's going to have an emphatic meaning, or it'll be pretty obvious to me, because sometimes when you turn a card upside down, something else becomes loud and clear in the image, in the color, in the shape, in the way that the card is. So I do read it. But generally speaking, I try to find the light and the shadow within the card without having to read the reversals. I'm going to do a separate video on the court cards, but I think tonight I should probably just wind up and just touch on the courts. I haven't really chosen any decks here tonight where I love the court cards. And you've seen a lot of Shadowscape cards here tonight. Let's look and see what we've got in the numinous. There is a turtle in one of them. I love it. There's a couple of decks that have the Knight of Pentacles on a turtle. That really appeals to me. That really appeals to me, right? You're not necessarily, you might win the race if you ride on a turtle. Is that in Shadowscapes? I don't think so. There's at least 2 decks I know that have that. where the Knight of Pentacles is on a turtle. Page, Knight, Queen, King. There's Shadowscapes. Just give me 1 second here. Maybe it's in the Victorian one that I was looking at earlier. Okay. Yes, we do. We do have a turtle. So, in a nutshell, and I'm going to come back to this and we're going to look at the court cards in depth, probably over a couple of videos, but the Page of Pentacles. So we're talking about things made manifest. And so either to me, this is that inner child that needs to get really connected to the earth and feel connected and play and create and touch and feel, right? There's something very, very tangible about the Page of Pentacles. That's the kid that wants to have their hands in everything and to experience the earth in a very physical kind of way. The whole idea of the student, is this pages are also about new beginnings, or about things that are being initiated. And so as far as is this a card about going back to university, going back to school, studying again? Is that the Page of Pentacles, or is that the Page of Swords? Depends on the reading, depends on the surrounding cards. But for sure, the Page of Pentacles could be about that, but not necessarily. The Knights in general can either be messengers. The pages can also be messengers. So if you think about the way that the ancient court was, the pages were the messengers, not the knights. The knights went out on missions, right? They were riding away. They were always leaving the court and going off in a certain direction on a mission. But I think sometimes we associate the knights with messengers as well, too. So you need to kind of look at what's going on in the reading. But generally speaking, that Knight of Pentacles is really taking his time and moving slowly. I don't know why I'm not showing you these cards. Probably because I don't really connect with them. There's your Knight from the Victorian Fairy Tarot. And this whole suit is very autumnal, because it's a suit of autumn. And I think the lesson in the Knight of Pentacles, and if the Knight of Pentacles is being reflected back in a reading, is that it's important to kind of take your time on this mission. And often there is a mission, there is a journey, and this is one of those journeys where you do need to stop and smell the roses along the way, and not worry so much about the end point, but to really, be on the journey. And I think that's one of the big lessons of the Knight of Pentacles. The Queen of Pentacles, of course, she harkens back to the Nine of Pentacles and to the Empress as well, too. And when you get a double of those cards in a reading, it's just like a very emphatic. It's a very motherly kind of energy, and it's a home and hearth. And this is the kind of, I think it's in the hidden Tarot of the Hidden Realm. Is there that lovely queen, and she has large breasts, and it's just like, I don't know, maybe I don't take this the wrong way, but I feel that image of the large-breasted woman, the woman who has the kapha dosha in Ayurveda, that sense of that soft skin, that nice kind of a little bit oily skin, and you just want to snuggle up and you want to be held. And if we take that metaphor back to the earth, back to Mother Earth, and we allow ourselves in the Queen of Pentacles to really lean into the earth. So when you do your meditations, to really really land and really let go and allow yourself to be held. So when I'm talking about those lovely breasts that are often shown in the Queen of Pentacles, I'm sure that's not in the numinous. That's the energy that I'm talking about. Allow yourself to be held. Where are we here? Let's see what the creator of Pentacles is, and I forget what it is. So the creator of Pentacles does not have lovely breasts, of course, in the numinous. This is the creator of Pentacles. This looks very transformative with the daffodils and the butterflies. It's like the expansion of the creation. But for me, that's what the Queen, one of the meanings of the Queen of Pentacles is that beautiful sense of comfort and to be held, and allow yourself to be held. Allow yourself to be comforted, right? Because sometimes we feel like we're too busy. We need to go. We need to keep moving. We need to do something else, right? There's just too many. We have too many lists, too many things on our to-do list. And so, yeah, so I really see her in that way. And then I really hope some of you comment afterwards, because I'm going to be signing off in a few minutes. Please, 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 down below, because I haven't seen anything that's in the chat, because my chat is definitely not working. King, I have a friend, a dear, dear friend, and her husband is the most King of Pentacles that I have ever met in my life. He's a contractor. He's a carpenter. He's the kind of contractor that would never rip anybody off. He makes sure everything is done meticulously. All of the sub-trades love him. He has this way of getting the best sub-trades to work on a job, and they have this really great relationship. He really takes care of people. And when he's at home, he looks after the home. He will come home from a full day working as a carpenter, and you'll see him in the kitchen, with a dish towel over his shoulder, and he'll be washing the dishes. And some nights he'll be making supper, and he's got this great relationship with his kids. It's so beautiful. I'm so glad that I've met a man like that, and that I've actually, had that experience with that kind of a King of Pentacles, because to me that is the ideal, right? There, of course, are shadows for all of these courts, and some of them are easier to pull out than others. But the King of Pentacles, of course, can be very stingy with his money, and he can be very hard businessman. So, we can look at all of that as well too. And each of the courts, I did not mention what their other side was, but I've gone on long enough tonight, and I can't chat with you, so I am going to sign off. And I want to wish you all a very, very happy Ostara, and go out tonight and have a look up to the sky and see if you can see Venus, because she was so beautiful and brilliant last night. I really look forward to chatting with you in the comments below. Stay well, my friends. Namaste.